Now today we will be going into the original subject of tribal India, which is 6.2, called as tribal problem. What are the problems of tribes? You have to remember this. Examples are the core, which are also called as case studies. So how they face the problem? So starting I will come with some case studies and they will go into the subject. In April 2017, in Karnataka, some tribal communities, in 2017, more than 148 houses were being demolished and their families were being removed of Tattakkola and Saragodu forest reserves in Karnataka. Means, if any forest is being declared as forest reserve, like national park or wildlife sanctuary, then what will happen? In order to protect the forest, they will be removed. So the tribal people, if they are present in that particular forest, they will use the forest reserve and they will go for deforestation, they believe, and they will remove them. But the tribal people will believe that Adivasis, we are living in this forest since generations, and suddenly they are removed from the land. So they become helpless. They will be in search of livelihood. Number one. Number two, in Assam, more than 1,000 people from Bodo, Rabba and Mishing tribal communities were forcefully evicted from the Orang National Park. Means, when any forest is been declared as national park, if any forest is been declared as tiger reserve, then what will happen? Human interference is not allowed. Because of that, again they will be thrown out. Why? They believe that, the government believe that, so now it is a tiger reserve, now it is a national park, so it should be protected, it should be conserved. So if I want to protect the forest, so this tribal community should not stay in this particular area. If they stay in this particular area, they might go for deforestation. Again they are displaced. Biligiri Ranganathan Hills Tiger Reserve in southern India. This is a very good example. There is a tribal community called as Soligga. There is a tribal community called as Soligga. Soligga tribal community of Biligiri Ranganathan Swami Temple Tiger Reserve or Biligiri Ranganathan Hills. So these people are Soligga people who are living in this Biligiri Ranganathan Hills. Earlier what happened, on the name of Soligga tribal community, were been removed from this forest when it is been declared as national park. Then what happened? The poachers who kill the animals, they started entering into this Biligiri Ranganathan temple, tiger reserve, and started killing the tigers. Then the government understood that no, the tribal communities are having some association. The tribal communities are having some association with the forest and the animals. What we will do? We will allow the Soligga tribal community. So Soligga tribal community were been again allowed to live in this Biligiri Ranganathan Hills. Then what happened? Tiger number has been increasing. The tiger deaths has been reduced. Then they understood that tribal people, they will never harm the forest, they will never harm the animals. They have a symbiotic relationship with forest, they have the symbiotic relationship with animals. Why? Because they believe that forest will give them livelihood in the form of honey, lac, resins, small food items. So they believe that their livelihood is dependent upon the forest, so they have to protect the forest. The Soligga tribal communities have been allowed to stay. It's reported that there has been an increase in the number of tiger population far above the national average. Soligga says, we worship tigers as gods, you remove us and you remove the, if you allow us, you not only allow us, you will also allow the tigers to live. Why? Because they have an inherent relationship with animals. So from this we are understanding that tribals never harm the environment, tribals never harm the forest, tribal never harm the wild animals. So if you want to protect the forest, you should also allow the tribals to stay there. Why? Because their livelihood is dependent on them. For example, if your livelihood is dependent upon one particular aspect, if your livelihood is dependent upon agriculture, your livelihood is dependent upon land, if someone is coming and taking our land, you will keep quiet or you will rebel? We will rebel. Why? Because our livelihood is dependent on. Similarly, the tribal communities also, their livelihood is dependent upon forest. When their livelihood is dependent upon the forest, if someone come and harm the forest, they will not allow. So there are examples where the tribals were being removed, there are examples where the tribals were being thrown out, there are examples where the tribals are responsible for the growth of tribal tiger population or protection of environment. So, first example is about the forest reserve in Karnataka. Forced evictions in India in 2017, alarming national crisis. Tribals were being thrown out. Number 2, there are tribal communities like Bodo, Rabba, Mishing, who were being thrown out when one of the forest area was been declared as Orang National Park. And there is another example which is Biligiri Ranganathan Hills Tiger Reserve. When the Soligga tribal people were been removed, the number of tigers has been reduced. When the Soligga tribal people were been allowed to stay, the number of tigers has been increasing. So, from this again we are understanding that if we want to protect the forest, we should not remove them, we have to give them more habitation. We have to allow them to stay, and when they stay, they will protect the forest, they will also protect the wildlife animal. Why? Because their livelihood is dependent upon. So, from this particular 3 examples, we came to a conclusion that there is an inherent relationship between the tribals and the forests. But what is happening? These tribals who are part of the forest, the tribals who are the part of the nature, they are been suffering because of several problems. So, what are the problems? One of the biggest problem which they face is land alienation. What is land alienation? See, for example, understand from, you have to feel it. I am living in this forest. From centuries together, the tribal families are living on this particular land. Suddenly the government came and declared that now onwards this forest is called as national park. Now onwards this forest is called as tiger reserve. Now onwards this forest will be used for mining activities. Now onwards this forest will be used for industrialization. Now onwards this forest will be used for infrastructure development. So, when this happens, a tribe who is living, who will go away. But on this particular land, the tribal people are living for centuries together, generations together. Suddenly this man has been thrown out. These families have been thrown out. This community has been thrown out. Now I went out. Where I will go? In search of food. When I go for in search of food, what will happen? No one will give me free food. Then I have to work. In the process of working, the mainstream people will see the innocence, illiteracy of the tribal people and start exploiting. So, land alienation is one of the biggest problem which is faced by the tribals. Remaining problems are there like health and nutrition, unemployment, underemployment, poor educational facility and low literacy rate, indebtedness. So, this all will be discussing. So, first problem we will be coming across with respect to land alienation. Tribal communities of India reside in hilly areas that are rich in minerals and forest cover. Means naturally they live in hilly areas. Naturally they live in forest areas. Unfortunately, those forest areas are rich in land is the basis of their socio-cultural and religious identity, their livelihood and their very existence. What is very important? You go to a village, they will be ready to do anything. But if you ask 1 inch of land also, they will be not ready to give it. They will ready to kill or die for land. Tribal people, they will be associating with the land. They believe that the land itself is their god, like Baiga tribal community. What the Baiga tribal community will believe? The Baiga tribal community will believe that the earth Gozan is their gods. So, they will not go for tilling also. They will not go for plowing also. Why? Because they believe that land is the god. A socio-religious attachment will be there with the, in Pongal time. What we will worship? We will worship the yield which is coming out, the output which is coming out from the agriculture. So, similarly the tribal people also have an association with land. Their lives are closely interlinked with forest for food, fuel, medicine and livelihood. Traditionally land was under community ownership. It is not single ownership. Again, this particular land belongs to Gond, this particular land belongs to Baiga, this particular land belongs to Chenchu. So, traditionally and conventionally this particular lands are under the control of community ownership. So, what will happen? If in our lands what will happen? This plot is yours, this plot is X, this plot is Y, this plot is Z. If someone come and attack, or if someone come and take, or someone come and hijack, or someone come and do kabja, land X, only land X owner will respond or everyone will respond? Land X person will respond. But in tribal people what happened? The complete land belongs to the community. There is no individual property, there is no private property. If someone comes and hijack or kabja one particular land area, or they take one particular land, whether total community will respond or one particular person will respond? Community will respond. Why? Because the land ownership is community ownership. So, what happened? If anyone is coming, mainly the government will come on the name of national park, on the name of tiger reserve, on the name of globalization, on the name of industrialization, on the name of infrastructure. So, they respond aggressively. Why? Because the land doesn't belong to the individual, the land belongs to community. So that particular land is been removed. That particular land is been taken away by the government or by the private people, hence they are suffering with a problem called as land alienation. What are the factors responsible for tribal problems? What are the factors responsible for tribal problems? The one of the biggest problem is culture contact. What is culture contact? When I didn't came to contact with you, there is no problem. But when the mainstream people came into contact with tribe, the problem started. Yes or no? Till you were been living in your home, when I am living in my home, there is no problem. When the contact established, when the people came, when the mainstream people came into contact with tribal people, the problem started evolving. Why? Because this forest we want, this land we want, or your way of living we want, honey we want, lac we want. So up to now no one came, but now because of the contact, their culture is getting deteriorated, their resources are being taken away by mainstream people. So one of the major reason for the tribal problems is culture contact. Number 2, yes, there is no problem till you didn't join any classes. Once you joined classes, one person came and asked for phone number, you gave the phone number, contact, finish. Once the contact has been shared, unnecessary problems or everything came. If you didn't share the contact, there is no issue only. So for everything, what is responsible? Contact. So when they are alienated, when they are living separately, there is no problem. When they are living in the forest, there is no problem. Once the contact established, the problems evolved. And in this contact, what happened? One community is exploiting another community. The community which is exploiting is mainstream. The community which is getting exploited is simple societies, tribal societies. Next, economic aspects. Their economy is taken away. Their economic resources are taken away. Political aspects. The mainstream political systems are coming into tribal areas. Social aspects. Their culture, their social aspects are being removed away. So these are the major factors which are responsible for tribal problems. So one by one we will discuss. So what are the tribal problems? In your syllabus, 5 major problems are there. One is land alienation, poverty and indebtedness, low literacy and poor educational facility, unemployment and health and nutrition. So first is land alienation. What is land alienation? The owners of the lands were being thrown out. You only think. Your parents or your grandparents are living on this one particular area, one particular land in your village for generations together. Suddenly, a force came, government came or private people came, they hijacked your land. They hijacked the land of your parents or grandparents. They got habituated to that particular village. They can live only in that village. They cannot live outside the village. They got an inner relationship with the village. Now that land has been taken away, but I have to survive. Then I will be forcefully removed from the land and I will be coming out from the village to live somewhere else. That particular process of removal of a person from his own land and making him as alien to his own land is called as land alienation. And this is one of the biggest problem which is faced by Indian tribes. One of the biggest problem which is faced by Indian tribes is land alienation. So how to do? See, compulsory from this 5, 100% 2 questions will come. Why? Because this is a core, the tribal problems. How the structure should be there? If you want, you can write down. Introduction, status. I will give you the structure, how to frame the answer for any answer with respect to tribal problems. Introduction, status, third point, factors responsible for problem. See, after I face problem, what will be their consequence? If I face a problem, then the next thing will be consequence. What will be the consequence? Fourth, consequence. Fifth, solution to the problems. Yes or no? Solutions to the problems. Sixth, one expert committee will be constituted to study that particular problem. So that expert committee will give some recommendations. Next is expert recommendations. Then conclusion. So overall, so first will be the introduction, second will be the status, third will be factors responsible for the problem, fourth will be consequence. For that problem, what will be the consequence? Fifth will be solutions for the problem. Next, expert committee. One committee will be constituted to study. So their recommendations and finally conclusion. In between, write case study. At consequence, write case study, bracket case study. With some case study, with some example you have to prove. No. This is the structure for complete tribal India. Introduction, status, factors responsible for problem, consequence with case studies, solutions, expert recommendations, conclusion. The 7 paragraphs you have to write. So, first introduction. I have to give some information, I have to give some data. Without data, I cannot prove that land alienation is happening or not. So, the data is the average area owned per household in India is 0.563 hectares. It is 0.708 for scheduled tribe, means more than the mainstream, more than the normal people. Who is owning more land? Tribe. Means why? Because he is in the forest area. So, he is considering the forest area is also his own land. So, this much percentage of an average scheduled tribe is having the land. Historically, the scheduled tribes had customary ownership over forest as well as land closer to their settlements. Since use of forest land did not warrant permission from authorities, the scheduled tribe households had acquired forest lands as per their requirement. Therefore, it is not unusual for the scheduled tribe households to own more land as compared to other social groups, mainly this tribals who live in the forest. In the forest, there is no buying and selling, no documentation, anything. So, they go, they live, and according to their casual customary laws, they think that the forest is made for us to live and to have the resources for their livelihood. So, they acquire the land, but they will not destroy the forest, they will acquire the land and they will be staying in the forest area. Because of the forest area, their average land holdings is more than mainstream. Because of the forest, for example, if I am in the city, I have to buy each and every land, every piece of land I have to buy. So, I have to put some money, which is a tougher task. So, I might have a land or not, but I go into the forest, there is no ownership. So, if I started living there, no one came for 5 years, then I will expand, no one came, I expanded, I started owning the land. Because of this, the tribals are having more average lands when compared to. So, that means what we understood introduction is, so generally they got very good land, but the problem is that land does not have the papers. So, they have the land, they have a very good quantity of land, but that land they does not have papers. Status. According to various estimates, about 80% of tribal lands are alienated. But what happened? As they acquired the lands which are more than the general population, but the problem with there is they does not have the papers. So, across India, wherever the land alienation is happening, 80% of the land alienation is happening mainly with tribals. Why? Because they do not have the papers, they own the forest area which does not have any documentation. So, if any land alienation is happening, 80% of the land alienation is happening with tribals. And further studies show that 47% of total displaced are tribals according to Zaksa committee. There is one expert committee was been constituted to study about the tribals, which is called as Virginius Zaksa committee or simply called as Zaksa committee. According to this, 80% of the land alienation is happening of whose? Tribals. And when the displacement is happening, when we are throwing out, when the displacement is happening, when we are throwing out, how much percentage of the people are getting thrown out? 47% of them are being thrown out. So generally what the problem? So generally the land is with the tribals, but the problem is there does not have any documentation. So if any land alienation is happening across India, 80% of the land alienation is happening of whom? Tribals. And when there is a displacement is happening, when we are throwing out, how much percentage of the tribals are getting thrown out? 47%. So why this land alienation is happening? What is the responsible factors for this land alienation? Why the tribals are being thrown out from their own lands? So there are some factors responsible for land alienation. Number 1, ignorance and illiteracy. For example, there is an act called as Forest Rights Act. The Forest Rights Act will tell that if any tribal man living on the same forest land for more than 75 years without any land papers also, he will become the owner of the forest area, provided that villagers, provided that Grama Sabha of that village endorse, yes, this particular family is living on this particular land for more than 75 years. So they will get land rights, they will get pattas. But as they didn't got education, as they didn't have the knowledge, the government will come or the private people will come and throw them out. So one of the factor responsible for land alienation is what? Ignorance, illiteracy. I should know, no? 15 years back, 20 years back, people doesn't know how to become an IAS officer also till they get graduation. What will be the subjects also, some of the people doesn't know. It's because of what? Ignorance. Then what will be the position of the tribe who doesn't know that there are legislations, there are some laws like the Forest Rights Act. What is that it's telling? If any person or any family living on that forest area for more than 75 years, then if the Grama Sabha of that particular forest area endorse that yes, they are living on this forest since 3 generations, 1 generation means 25 years, since 3 generations, then the land will be given on their name. But they don't have that knowledge, hence the land has been taken away. So one of the problem is what? Innocence, ignorance and illiteracy. Number 2, development induced displacement. What the government will tell? We are going to construct infrastructure. Indian railways tracks are coming. We are going to construct a tunnel. We are going to construct a highway. We are going to construct an industrial hub like Bokaro steel plant or Rourkela steel plant. We are going to come up with Jamshedpur steel plant, or we are going to come up with a National Thermal Power Corporation, Ramagundam, Telangana state. Once upon a time, the Ramagundam Thermal Power Corporation or Thermal Power Station is a village of 60 villages. Gond tribal population used to live. 1976, when this NTPC came into existence, the complete Gond villages were being removed off. So, on the name of what the displacement is happening? On the name of development induced displacement. I have to go for development. For example, the Sri Shailam multi-purpose project is there in Nalamala forest. Sri Shailam multi-purpose project. It's a hub for Chenchu tribal population. When the Sri Shailam multi-purpose project was being constructed, the Chenchu, nearly 50,000 Chenchu people's houses were being removed. On the name of what? Irrigation facility. Irrigation for what? Development. Development induced displacement. On the name of development. For example, this is a forest. One national highway is coming. In here, the tribal people are living. So, national highway should be connected. So, if the national highway should continue, compulsory this particular area should come under the road. So, what I will do as a government, I will remove this people. On the name of what? Development. So, second biggest problem is development induced displacement. Development is not a benefit for them. Development itself is a nightmare for them. Yes or no? Development is not a benefit. Development is not a God's gift. Development itself is a nightmare. They are fearing that when development is happening. Oh, you are coming for a development means compulsory you will take our land. Mining projects on the name of mining. Singareni collieries, coal belt we see, Singareni collieries in Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, in Telangana, northern Telangana region. Complete wherever on the Godavari basin, the coal fields are there. Once upon a time it is a hub for Gond tribal population. On the name of mining, they are being removed off. Why? Because minerals are present where? Forest area. In the forest area, who will live? Tribals will live. Mining areas. Money lenders. In old movies we used to see, Rao Gopal Rao, one person will be there and he will give the loans. You want money? Please take it. But he will make one left thumb impression. Exorbitant interest rates he will be collecting. When they are unable to pay, what he will tell? Whatever land you have, you give it to me. Whatever land you have to give it to me. So, money lenders, they are also taking the land by exorbitant interest rate. Another factor is money lenders. Government establishments like Balasore. Balasore is one particular defense testing point where the missiles will be tested. Balasore in Odisha. It's once upon a time, it's a hub for Savara tribal community. The complete Savara tribal community was been removed from the Balasore and it became a defense testing center. Government establishments. Ecotourism, on the name of ecotourism. Silent Valley, where it is? Kerala. Silent Valley, when it was being declared as a national park for the name of ecotourism, the complete Paniyan, Parva tribal communities were being removed off on the name of ecotourism. So, there are factors which are responsible for land alienation. Number 1 is ignorance and illiteracy. Number 2 is development induced displacement. Number 3 is mining projects. Number 4 is money lenders. Number 5 is government, and number 6 is ecotourism. These are the factors which are responsible for everything. We have an example: ignorance and illiteracy. For example, Forest Rights Act. will give the land rights if any family is living in that particular forest for 75 years. But they don't have knowledge about that because of their illiteraciness, because of their innocence. Development induced displacement. On the name of development, there is lot of displacements. Factors responsible for land alienation. Some facts. Facts are very, very important. According to Debar Commission, one commission was been constituted in 1961. Land alienation is because of lack of proper legislations from government. Now, no proper legislation, no proper guarantee. See, I am a tribe, I am innocent, ignorant, mainly illiterate. We are living in this particular forest since generations. Suddenly the government came and told that now onwards this land is not yours, this land belongs to government. But this many years I am living, no, government is ultimate, and the government decided that now this particular forest will be under the control of government. There is no proper legislation to protect them. Recently in 2006, Forest Rights Act came into existence. This act came in 2006. Till 2006, the lands were being taken away by the government. After 2006 also, the tribals doesn't have the knowledge with respect to how to own the land. How? If they have proof that they are living on the forest since last 75 years, then the Grama Sabha of that particular forest, if they endorse, yes, these people are living in this particular forest area since last 75 years, then the government will give the pattas, which is very rarely happens. So there is no proper law, chattam, there is no proper law. Lacuna in the implementation. At least in 2006, Forest Rights Act came, but the implementation is very, very poor. Why? Because see, I am a government official, you are a tribe, you are living in this particular forest since 100 years, 200 years. And you came near me for patta. Why I will give interest on you? Why I want to give you land rights? What I will get? So implementation lacunae are there. You are already a poor person. You are not going to give me 1 rupee also. Why? Because the Indian bureaucracy is completely corruption oriented, bribe oriented. That too in forest areas, the bribe is very too much. Then why if a official who have the power to give the patta, why he will show the interest? That too on a poor illiterate tribal man. So the acts which were been made also were been not properly implemented. Implementation problems, and tribals doesn't have information, ignorance of tribals. According to the Bar Commission, means what? You have to understand the structure of writing an answer. So these are the factors generally. These are the factors generally, but some expert committee would be constituted. The expert committee, the Bar Commission told these 3 are the factors which are responsible for. So you will get one more extra point when you write this Debar Commission, according to Debar Commission. This is general knowledge, information which you have, but this is what we generate marks. Oh, so according to Debar Commission, these are the factors which are responsible for land alienation. So what will be the impact? Consequence. So what are the factors responsible for land alienation? Next, what consequence? Consequence क्या होता है? Number 1, poverty. I have everything. See, rich means not roaming in the cars. Rich means not having bungalows. Rich means what? A satisfied, self-respect oriented life is called as rich. Whatever is available in the forest, I used to have everything. I have honey, lac, resins, the minor forest produce, whatever is getting from the forest, the community people are consuming, and the community people are very happy. Now this particular land we are living from centuries together, suddenly you came and you thrown out us. So when you thrown me out, when I got alienated, now I am in search of my livelihood. When I am in search of livelihood into the mainstream, now in mainstream what is important? Money came. Money is becoming a major factor. In the tribal community, when I was living in the forest, there is no role of money. Whatever is there we used to consume. But when I came into the mainstream, for everything what I want? Money. When I want everything money, I don't have the money, then I will be pushed into poverty. Because of land alienation, the consequence is poverty. Culture shock. For example, I will tell you. When they are living in the tribal hamlet, they have their own form of cultural dress. They have their own cultural language. They have their own way of dress format. They have their own way of living. But when they are thrown out, means they came into contact with mainstream. When they came into contact with the mainstream, their dress, their way of living, their tattoos, their language, everything became a joke. Everyone making fun of them, mainly women making fun of them. Then they are confused. What is this? Up to now I used to live, no one used to make fun of me. Why these people are making fun of me? Whether there is a problem with my culture. When I think there is a problem with my culture, that is called as culture shock. So what I will do, as I came into contact with mainstream, I have to leave my culture, I have to leave my dress pattern, I have to leave my language. So I will become part of mainstream. When I become part of mainstream means I am leaving my culture. My culture is getting shocked. My culture is getting deteriorated. What is very important for a man? Culture. That culture itself is getting impacted. Because of what? Land alienation. So the consequence is culture. Bonded labor. So the person who was living in the forest, he came out because of land alienation. He came to a nearby village. In the nearby village, one dominant caste or a big man is living. Sir, our family doesn't have the food to eat. Earlier we used to live in the forest, we used to get everything. But the government or the private people took our forest. So now we don't have any livelihood to own. Can you please give me some food? Then what he will tell, okay fine, you can come, we will give you food, but your lifelong you have to work at my bonded labor. The result is what? Bonded labor. Bonded labor means what? Lifelong slavery without any payment, only with food and accommodation. Sale of tribal girls, trafficking of women. The women of the tribe was once upon a time lived with lot of self-respect. Now they were being pushed into prostitution. Why? Food. Up to now everything was available in the forest. Up to now I used to have everything, but now I have been removed from the forest. Now I came into livelihood, in search of livelihood into the mainstream. In mainstream what will be there? Everything is run by money. Selling of their girl child. And the people who rebel, what is this? This is our forest land. Who you are to remove us? They joined left-wing extremism. They joined Naxalism. These are the consequences of land alienation. Unrest among the tribes leading to the joining left-wing extremism. Left-wing extremism is Naxalism. That is the reason. In central India, the Naxalism is so much. You should get some doubt. Sir, tribals are present in northeast India also. Tribals are present in central India also. But why the tribals of central India joined Naxalism? Why not in northeast India? In northeast India what happened? The tribals accepted the English language because of Christian missionaries, and they got English education, and they entered the mainstream, and they got the jobs. But in central India what happened? They didn't accept the mainstream language. There is no Christian missionaries. There is no education. So because they don't got education, they were being exploited easily. When they got exploited easily, they rebelled against the government. They rebelled against the private people and joined left-wing extremism. These are the consequences of impacts of land alienation. Then case study. Korwas of Madhya Pradesh. Korwas of Madhya Pradesh, money lenders. So what happened? The mainstream society people slowly entered into the forest area of Madhya Pradesh. When the mainstream society came into contact with the tribal people, then what came? Economy way. What type of economy? Money economy came into existence. Tribal people doesn't have money. Tribal people doesn't know the role of currency. But when the culture contact happened, when the culture shock happened, for everything what is required now? Money. Then the money lenders came. Money lenders, mainly Kabuli walas from Afghanistan, Pakistan, the money lenders came, and this money lenders started taking money or asking, I will give you money. You take the money as a loan. In return, what you have to do? You keep a signature on the bond paper. So in that process, Korwas of Madhya Pradesh, they started giving their lands to whom? Muslim money lenders at exorbitant interest rate. So they will 10 rupees interest rate, 10 paisa interest rate. When they are unable to pay the interest, what they will tell? Whatever land you have, you give it to me. So the Muslim money lenders in the Madhya Pradesh region, from the tribal people called as Korwas, they got the land. Yanadis of Andhra Pradesh, a classic example. We are very proud of Sriharikota, rocket launching station. Recently the Chandrayaan was also been launched from Sriharikota, rocket launching station. Before 1974, it is how it will be located, you know. This is South India. Here there is Nellore, Sulurpeta, and one extension will be there, which is called a sandbar. Means a sand layer will go inside the Bay of Bengal. This is sand area. So if I place on this particular part, or here if I place rocket launching station, so the rotation will be from left to right. So what will happen? It will give extra triggering force extra acceleration for the rockets to move into the space. Why? Because it's moving from left to right. So it's a better location. So if I keep here and the rockets are moving, so extra gravity will be added to it and it will be more further pushed into the space. Number one. Number two, if the rocket fails, it will fall into Bay of Bengal. If the rocket fails, it will fall into the Bay of Bengal. So that is the reason almost all the rocket launching stations of all the countries and the continents will be on the east side of the coast. So here we found a very beautiful location called as sandbar, which is protruding into Bay of Bengal. Government identified it. So we will put our rocket launching station here. So when they went there, we know up to here. So rocket launching station came and the rocket launching station made India onto the next level. But on this particular sandbar, one community was living, one tribal community was living for centuries together. 500, 600, 700 years history we don't know. But for so many years, one tribal community was living here and the tribal community name is called as Yanadi. Very happily they were been living here. Their livelihood is fishing. They used to go into the Bay of Bengal, they get some fish, they eat, they sleep, again tomorrow morning again they will go for fishing. Very happily they used to live here. But the government of India thought that we want this sandbar and we want to construct a rocket launching station. 70,000 people used to live on this sandbar, Yanadi tribal community. They were being removed ruthlessly and the 70,000 people were being removed. Then we got an establishment of rocket launching station, for which we are proud. But what happened to that 70,000 people? So they used to live here. They dispersed into the mainstream. They know how to live here, but they don't know how to live. So they became beggars, they became prostitutes, they joined criminals, they became robbers. Now they settled down in somewhere in Jharkhand, Yanadi tribal community, because of government establishment. Case study. Why? Land alienation. Who did the land alienation? Government. At least here the private people did. Yes, private people will be villains, but here the government itself is a villain. Yanadis of Andhra Pradesh, Korvas of Madhya Pradesh. Then how to protect, sir? Then how to help these tribal people? Protection, measures, suggestions. How to protect them? Solutions. Constitutional. See, any solutions you ought to remember this. It can be a general studies answer, it can be an ethics answer, or it can be optional answers. Any question with respect to solution, remember like this. First, constitutional solution, high priority. Then legislative solution, second. Third, executive solution, third. Fourth, judicial solution. 4 solutions you have to remember. Number 1, constitutional solutions, legislative solutions, executive solutions and judicial solutions. First, constitutional solutions. Schedule 5 schedule area. In the mainstream India, where the tribals are located, their land cannot be converted to non-tribals. Land which belongs to scheduled 5, land which belongs to STs cannot be converted to non-STs. Your parents will know. Some lands we should not buy. Mainly 2 types of lands will be there. One is scheduled lands, which were been given to the tribals by the government, by the constitution, under schedule 5 and schedule 6 of the constitution. Under schedule 5 mainstream India, schedule 6 is northeast India. Second lands will be there. Under land reforms, government gave some lands to scheduled caste, SCs. Those lands are called as assigned lands. Non-SCs, non-STs should not buy such lands. If they buy the land, it is nothing but a fraud. Why? Because according to the rule of law, the land cannot be converted to non-STs, that land cannot be converted to non-STs. It is exclusively given to the SCs and STs by the government. So first thing is what? Scheduled areas. What is the first one? Schedule 5. In the mainstream India, some areas were being identified as scheduled 5 areas. What are those areas? As I told you yesterday, some pockets where the tribal population is eminent. Where the pockets where the tribal population is more. So that particular pockets will be identified as scheduled 5 areas. The land in that particular scheduled 5 areas belongs only to ST. The transfer is not allowed. Land transfer cannot happen. Means if it is ST land, that ST land should be given only to the ST but not to non-ST. That is the reason in the highway from Balarsha to Nagpur, who owned that land originally? Gond people. So that particular land comes under which area? Scheduled 5 area. So who buyed it? Lambadas. Lambadas, how they buyed? They are also STs. But these STs are more intelligent and more educated when compared to Gons. So means there the conversions happened, but within the STs. Within the STs, so no problem. So one protection is what? Scheduled 5. In Scheduled 5 areas, the lands will be exclusively belongs to STs. That land is the land which is belongs to ST cannot be given to non-STs. So no land alienation. Number 2, Schedule 6, tribal areas, autonomous districts, same concept. In Northeast India, the tribals who are located in Northeast India, the land exclusive belongs to STs and those lands are called as tribal areas. And who will be the owner of that? STs only. If they want to sell, they can sell only to the STs. If not, they cannot give it to non-STs. Who will buy? Who will have the money? Who will land alienate them? Mainly non-STs. So in order to protect them from non-STs, they created two concepts. One is called as Schedule 5 in mainstream India, another is called as Schedule 6 in Northeast India. Tribal areas, autonomous district councils have power to make laws relating to land. Article 371, special provisions. What are the special provisions? Means the land which belongs to tribals will be only with the tribals. Non-tribals cannot buy or non-tribals cannot take the lands which belongs to STs. So these are the three things which are present in the Constitution of India. Schedule 5, Schedule 6 and Article 371. These are constitutional provisions. The constitutional provisions are highest importance. Next is statutory. Statutory means what? Legislative. Understand this. Sir, what is this meaning? Can you tell me? See, constitution means we made our own rule of law, very sacred, and we written for ourselves, which is called as a written document, a Constitution of India. If we want to change the provisions which are present in the constitution, we need to make a constitutional amendment. Cumbersome process. Special majority is required. 2/3 of the members present and voting in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha independently and signed by the president, and 50% of the state legislatures giving their assent. Then only we can change anything to the constitution. Statutory, I can make any law, but making of law is very easy. In Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, by simple majority. 50% of the members present and voting, and in that members and present 1/2 + 1 is equal to simple majority. If it is passed, then I can make a law. Statutory provisions means law. Statutory provision means by a law, by legislative procedure. Just by passing a simple majority, I can make a law. That is called a statutory. But constitution is what? In the original constitution, if it is present, which is made by the Constituent Assembly, or if I add to the constitution by a special majority. So constitutional provisions are more sacred. Why? Because they come into the constitution by which majority? Special majority. First is constitutional provisions. Second important is what? Statutory provisions. Eminent domain clause under Land Acquisition Act 1894. Listen this. These are reality. What I am teaching is real thing which is happening. If you become an IAS officer, you have to work with only this. The land problems will be enormous. Enormous cases will be there with respect to land. District collector is called as land record officer of the district. When the problem is not solved by MRO, when the problem is not solved by RDO, deputy collector, then the problem will come to district collector. First, what happened? Understand this. British came into power. What happened? Earlier they came as a economy, means like East India Company, only to exploit economically. But after 1857 Sepoy Revolt, they made an act called as 1858 Government of India Act. By the Government of India Act of 1858, what they told, now onwards the complete political power on India will be vested in the British. So who became the political power now? British. Now the India will be running on the lines of British. So in British, how the government will happen? For anything they have to make a law. But what is the main intention of British? Someday we are going to leave this India. Before I leave the India, I have to exploit everything in India. I have to take all the resources. I have to take all the resources of India. But what are there at that time? At that time, the wood was the resource. At the time, what is the resource? Wood, forest, trees, wood was the resource. Now what are all the houses constructed by wood in British belongs to Africa, Asia only. So for that wood if I want to buy, for that wood if I want to take, I have to acquire them. So they made an act in 1894 which is called as Land Acquisition Act 1894. They made an act called as Land Acquisition Act 1894. Means if I take any land, if any freedom fighter questions me, on what basis you took the land, then I have evidence that see we made a law. According to the law I am taking the, if we park our bike, traffic constable came and asked, why you kept your bike here? It is no parking zone. Then immediately where is no parking board? Show me. Means rule. There is no parking board. So I kept. Go and bring no parking board, then I will not keep. Why? Because it is a rule. Similarly, a act, Land Acquisition Act 1894 was been made. According to this act, they told eminent domain. They gave a name called as eminent domain. The government will be called as eminent domain. So eminent domain will be having the power to take any land. It can be the land of tribals, it can be the land of rich people, it can be the land of jamindars, it can be the land of landlords. Why? Because the government itself is eminent domain. So what happened? By using this clause, by using this Land Acquisition Act, eminent domain clause of Land Acquisition Act 1894, they started taking all the lands of the tribals. For what? For forests, for forest resources, for wood. They used to go for aggressive deforestation, they used to export, and it is go to London. So from 1894 onwards, this thing was happening. If anyone is acquiring the land, they are telling that under Land Acquisition Act 1894, government is eminent domain. Then what the government will do? It will wait, it will give, and the government will slowly tell that under GO, government order, earlier this land belongs to tribals. Under Land Acquisition Act of 1894, by using the provision of eminent domain, we took the land from tribals and now we are transferring to the private person. So land is getting transferred from tribal people to the government, eventually to the private person. Understand this. Lands belongs to forest ST cannot be given to non-ST. According to Schedule 5 and Schedule 6, ST land can be given only to ST. ST land tribal lands can be given only to tribals. But it is impossible. Why? Because it has been kept under constitution under Schedule 5 and Schedule 6. Then what the British did from 1894 to 1950, I didn't made an amendment, I continued it till 2013. So what the government did to help their friends, to help the private people, to help the corporates, government used to take the land of tribals, forests, and then next another GO it should be released saying that now it became government land or tribal land? Government land. Now this government land I am converting to whom? Non-tribals. See, this is tribal land. I cannot give the tribal land to non-tribals. Yes or no? Why? Because it is present in Schedule 5 and Schedule 6. But I am the government. I became the Prime Minister. I became the Chief Minister. He is my private friend. He is asking me for land. I want that particular forest area. In that forest area there is bauxite is there. What is for me? I will give you 5,000 crore. Okay, what I will do? I will impose Land Acquisition Act, eminent domain clause, and I am taking the land from tribals. Under Schedule 5 and Schedule 6, tribal lands cannot be converted to non-tribals. But they nowhere mentioned that the tribal lands cannot be converted to government. So tribal lands now converted to where? Government. Now what government is doing? Another GO they are releasing. And in another GO they are telling that this land belongs to government, and this government land we are giving to the private player. Earlier it was very tough to convert from tribal to non-tribal. Now what I did, from tribal to government to tribal. How I did? By using the act called as Land Acquisition Act eminent domain. So lands got converted. To whom? To private people, to mining companies, to multinational companies. What is the benefit the government is getting? Into the private pocket of Chief Minister, into the private pocket of Minister. He is bribing. Now whose lands has been converted now? Tribal lands has been converted. So one very dangerous legislation was been there, which is called as eminent domain clause under Land Acquisition Act 1894. From 1894 to 2013, this eminent domain clause was been exploited and the tribal lands were been given away to non-tribals. By whom? These technical problems will be there. They will use these things. So then in 2013 a very good legislation came which is called as Land Acquisition Rehabilitation Resettlement Act 2013. It removed this eminent domain and told that government is not eminent domain. Government also cannot take land from tribals. So from 2013 the land which belongs to tribals cannot be converted to the government also. Why? Because the eminent domain clause was been removed. Land Acquisition Act 1894, this is reality. Land Acquisition Act 1894, under this law there is a clause called as eminent domain. Eminent domain means government is called as eminent domain. No one can stop eminent domain to take any part of the land. So what British government did till 1947 till 1950 till the constitution come into power means they used to take total land. Wherever they want they used to take the land for their purpose. By using what? Eminent domain clause. If someone is questioning the court of law also, they are answerable. Why? Because there is a law called as Land Acquisition Act. Under this eminent domain is government. So government is taking the land. Then after 1950 what happened? We made Schedule 5 and Schedule 6. And we told that now onwards the tribal lands cannot be converted to non-tribals. Now onwards tribal lands cannot be converted to non-tribals. Now again I started using it by saying that government will take the tribal lands and the government will give it to the non-tribals. Why I will give to non-tribals? For money. This happened till which year? 2013. Then in 2013 the government understood that. The Congress government in 2013 they came and they told that we are going to remove this eminent domain. And they removed this eminent domain. That means from 2013 what? In any cost, it can be a private player or it can be a government. Cannot take whose lands? Whether tribal lands got protected or not? Whether tribal lands got protected or not? So eminent domain clause under Land Acquisition Act 1894 was been removed by Land Acquisition Rehabilitation Resettlement Act of 2000. This is what? Protection from land alienation. First protection is what? Constitutional. Second protection is what? Statutory. Under Forest Policy 1927, deforestation was legally enforced, but it was discontinued through a legislation, Forest Conservation Act of 1980. Next, statutory provision. Under Forest Policy 1927, deforestation was legally enforced. You tell me, 1927, which government? British government. Deforestation was legally enforced. Means what? You can go for deforestation. In 1927. Means what? The government itself made a policy and government itself is telling that yes, you go for deforestation. Why they made such? Why they made such? They are foreigners. What happens to India? Why I will bother? What the forest goes? Why I will bother? What happened to environment to India? Why I should bother? My only ambition is exploitation of India. So for the sake of wood, for the sake of forest, I made a policy and that policy is what? Deforestation was legally enforced. Up to which year? But it was discontinued through a legislation in the year? Means from 1927 to 1980. For 53 years, deforestation was legally accepted. You tell me, for 53 years, deforestation is legally enforced means how much forest would be lost? How much forest would be lost? Then why we didn't stop it after 1950? Politicians. Indian politicians. Already law is there. Let it continue. Let it continue. We will sell the wood. We will sell the wood. We will sell the wood. That is the reason we don't have the forest today. It is not because of deforestation which is happening today. The deforestation happened historically like anything. By whom mainly? By the British. Examples of exploitation by British. Legally they exploited. By eminent domain of Land Acquisition Act of 1894 and by Forest Policy 1927 which is telling that deforestation is legally enforced till the year through Forest Conservation Act of 1980. Forest Rights Act 2006. What is this Forest Rights Act 2006? Under Forest Rights Act 2006, if any tribal community is living in the forest since last 3 generations for 75 years, they will live in the village, no, forest village, there will be a Grama Sabha. So the forest officials will come to the Grama Sabha of that particular forest, they constitute the Grama Sabha and they will ask, this person is telling that he is living in this forest since 75 years, whether you people accept? Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So they will give 4 hectares of land. So now onwards, the forest land which was not in their names, now they are getting named by the pattas under which act? Forest Rights Act. Are you getting my point? Again I will repeat. See, Forest Rights Act 2006 told, the biggest problem the tribals are facing is they are living in the forest, but they don't have papers. But now onwards we will give papers, pattas, registration papers we will give. When we will give, our government official will come to your forest village, he will constitute a Grama Sabha, and the person who is claiming that I am living in this forest, on this particular forest land since 3 generations, I will ask the Grama Sabha people, this person is whether really living in this village. If the Grama Sabha people accept, people acceptance is there, then 4 hectares of forest land I will give patta to you. Means what? Now I am not becoming land alienated, now I am not removed from my land, rather than that I am getting a pattas. By which act? Forest Rights Act. These are constitutional provisions, these are statutory provisions. Next is judicial. National Human Rights Commission Samata judgment, 2 judgments are there, listen this. One judgment is called as National Human Rights Commission judgment. National Human Rights Commission judgment told, that means NHRC filed a case with Supreme Court saying that government is taking the lands of the tribals rehabilitation. Then the Supreme Court in 1993 told that when you are taking the lands of the tribals on the name of development, when you are taking the lands of the tribals, you should also ensure resettlement and rehabilitation. Supreme Court iterated that. Supreme Court told very, very strongly, okay, if you want a tribal land for development, you take it. But remember that when you are displacing the tribal people, you should also provide them resettlement and rehabilitation. Resettlement means I am living in this forest. You removed me. So somewhere I am going. You make a house for them. Resettlement. Rehabilitation means what? You give them livelihood. You give some job. So Supreme Court told that in the process of development, if you are taking the tribal lands and the tribal displacement is happening, you should also ensure what? Resettlement and rehabilitation. It is legal. See, one thing is there. All the pre-constitutional legislations, which are being present before the constitution came into enforcement, after the constitution also, it will flow till we stop it. Means what? By default it will be continued. So the Land Acquisition Act of 1894 made in which? British times. So it continued after constitution also. If I want to stop, how I can stop? By making a legislation. If not, it will be. Got it, Aarti? See, in that way, I will tell you, the biggest problem with Indians is, we tell child labor prohibition, we tell child labor abolition. At least that particular family is eating food because the 10-year or 12-year boy is going to the workplace. He is doing some work and bringing some bread and butter. So they are eating and they are living. Government is telling that child labor abolition, child labor prohibition. When you prohibit them, when you don't allow them, you have to provide rehabilitation, resettlement, no? At least he is eating food. Are you getting my point? At least he is eating food when he is going for a labor work. Now you told it should be abolished, it should be removed. Okay, you abolish, it's a good thing. You remove, it's a good thing. Then what about his food? What about his livelihood? Who will give? So government will bother about prohibition, government will bother about abolition, but government will not bother about resettlement and rehabilitation. A woman who is in prostitution, you will tell that you should not go for prostitution. Under Immoral Trafficking Prevention Act 1956, any act of prostitution is illegal in India, you should not do this. Then what about her livelihood? Then what about her bread and butter? Who should ensure it? So you are focused only about abolition. You are focused only about prohibition. Prohibition and abolition should not go in a single-handed. It should also go with rehabilitation and resettlement. If I tell you, you don't do this, then I should create alternative. Then you will not do this. If I tell only don't do this, then what I should do, sir? The problem with government of India is the government of India, whatever they plan, it is only with prohibition, abolition, they will not have an alternative. What is alternative? Resettlement and rehabilitation. NHRC filed a public interest litigation in Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court told that you are bothered only about displacement, man. Good, okay, for development you need land, I will accept it. Then what about the resettlement and rehabilitation? Hence the Supreme Court told that wherever the displacement happened, there should be resettlement and rehabilitation. Samatha judgment, very, very important judgment in 1997. Understand this. Samatha judgment. It happened in Andhra Pradesh, United Andhra Pradesh, which I told you earlier. The same he repeated it. Kotla Vijay Bhaskar Reddy was the chief minister. In Vizag region, huge reserves of bauxite was being found. But that Vizag region, that agency region comes under Scheduled 5. So if anything is coming under Schedule 5, what will happen? Land cannot be transferred. But the Kotla Vijay Bhaskar Reddy, the chief minister's relatives themselves are mining, they own mining company. And they gave proposal to the chief minister. We want that 4 hills. In that 4 hills, there is bauxite reserves are there. But unfortunately, that 4 reserves are coming under Scheduled 5 areas. Already Koya tribal people is living there. But I want that. Why? Because there is minerals are there. We can establish a very big plant. Then what the Kotla Vijay Bhaskar Reddy did? He gave a GO that under Scheduled 5 area, yes, the land belongs to Koya tribal people only, but government can take. So government took. Government kept it with it. Which area? Schedule 5 area. After 6-7 months, slowly, when the issue got degenerated, the same land, by government order, they gave it to a private company, their private friends. Now, this we found that there are minerals, so we are leasing this land to private people. But originally what happened? Tribal land converted to non-tribals. Samatha is one of the NGO who identified it. Oh, you are bypassing. You are misusing. And the tribal lands are taken to the government, and the government land is converted to non-tribals. Such a sort of mischievous activity should be stopped. And in the Samatha judgment, the Supreme Court very, very seriously told that government will not have the power to convert the Scheduled 5 areas to non-tribals. It can be through the government also, it should not be allowed. So very strictly told that, Supreme Court very strictly told that the tribal lands cannot be converted to the government, and the government lands cannot be converted to non-tribals. There is a blanket ban. Up to now it was tribal lands to non-tribals is not allowed. Now the tribal lands will not be converted to, by which judgment? Samatha judgment. 2 judgments. One is NHRC, another is Samatha judgment. These are constitutional provisions, statutory provisions, judicial protections. NGOs, there are some NGOs working, Action Aid, Indian Social Institution, Laya institutions, who are working for tribal populations. So these are constitutional provisions, statutory provisions, judicials, as well as some expert committee recommendations. So how to stop this land alienation? How to stop this land alienation? Zaksa committee recommendations. So, sir, then the government thought that, okay, the land alienation is increasing. How to control this land alienation? So we will constitute one expert committee, a specialized committee, well-educated committee, well-knowledged committee. And this committee will study how to control land alienation. So one committee was being constituted by the name called as Virginia Zaksa, or simply called as Zaksa committee. They recommended to government, sir, you do like this, the land alienation will be reduced. Sir, you do like this, the land alienation will be reduced. So what are the recommendations? Serious effort is required by the state to minimize. Then the Zaksa told this, I know displacement is inevitable for the sake of development. If I want development, when I am constructing the railway line, I have to go to the forest, go from the forest. If I'm going for national highways, I have to take some land. If I'm going for construction of reservoirs, I want land. If I want for mining, I want land. So I understand land is inevitable for the development. But be very cautious. The displacement should be minimal. Be cautious. The displacement should be minimal. Yes, you go for displacement, but be cautious that the displacement should be. There is a concept in your ethics called as utilitarianism. When large chunk of people are getting benefited, when small junction of people, small group of people are getting affected negatively, then no problem, you can go with it. Why? Because large section of people are getting benefited. In the same way, please, for the sake of development, land is inevitable, land is absolutely necessary. You can go with land acquisition, you take the land, but in the process of displacement, be cautious that the displacement should be minimal. There should be right based approach. There should be right based approach for comprehensive rehabilitation. Means what happened earlier, whenever they used to take the land, the tribal used to beg, please give me some rehabilitation, please give me some resettlement, please, please, please. So now it should not be like begging, it should be what? Rights. Rights means what? Hakku. Now the rehabilitation should not be like a begging, the rehabilitation should be right. Right based rehabilitation. Means yes, you took my land, you have to give me rehabilitation. You took my land. I'm not simply asking for resettlement and rehabilitation. I'm asking because you took my land. It should be a right based approach. Hak hona chahiye. NC Saxena, this person. Planning Commission, earlier Planning Commission was been there. Planning Commission member recommended. He recommended that unutilized tribal land to be returned back to the same community from whom it is. What they did. The tribal lands earlier which were been taken by the government, they didn't give to anyone, they kept it with themselves. The unutilized tribal lands, again give it back to the, if not using for anything else. Means Samata judgment, they told that government you are taking from tribals and giving it to non-tribals. It is not allowed. But government, if you want to take, you take from tribals and keep it with yourself, like railways, like DRDO, like ISRO. If you are using, okay, no problem. But you should not give it to private people. So in that way, whatever the lands is taken by the government from the tribals, if you are not using, give it back to them. At least they will use it. These are the recommendations given by the ZAXA. These are the recommendations given by NC Saxena. Next is poverty and indebtedness. Same structure. Poverty and indebtedness. First introduction. Poverty and exploitations are now synonymous with tribal life. Means what? If I am poor, I will be exploited. With poor, what will come? Hungry will come. With poor, what will come? Hungry will be complementary. If I am poor, not only poor, then it continues with hungry. The poor people will be more hungry. So when he is hungry, he will be exploited. You want food, you have to do this. You want food, you have to do this. You want money, do this. So poverty is not just a problem. Poverty and exploitation both go hand in hand. So when you are eradicating poverty, means you are not only eradicating poverty, you are also eradicating exploitation. The worst form of disease is exploitation. Another person uses another person. Another person misuses another person for the sake of one benefit. Darfur, just an example. In between, I will be telling some examples. Darfur refugee camp, the largest refugee camp in the world, is located in Kenya. Darfur. Nearly 10 lakh refugees are there. They come from Ethiopia, Somalia, Sudan, South Sudan. Darfur refugee camp. You know, in that particular refugee camp, for the woman to use the toilet, she will be sexually exploited. For using toilet, not for money, not for food, not for anything. If you want to use the toilet, you will be exploited sexually. The highest level of exploitation. Why? Why? Because they are refugees. Refugees means what? Who are coming from other country for the sake of help, for the sake of life. They don't have money. The poverty is also synonymous with exploitation. Just to use the toilets, sexual exploitation is happening in this particular Darfur. Means poverty is so much serious. Poverty is not only about not having money. Poverty is synonymous with hungry. Poverty is hungry, exploitation. Each and every problem is associated with poverty. ST households have the lowest annual income compared to general population. According to, just I am not giving the sentence, I am substantiating, I am giving the evidence. Poverty, annual income is less for STs when compared to general population. It is not just a statement which is given by, you have to write in bracket, oh, this statement is given by these people. Around 43% of ST population are below poverty line, where it is 24% for general population. Means approximately double the population. 24 means 48. Approximately 43% of ST population are living in below poverty line. Zaksa committee. About 69% of tribal population is under distress of indebtedness, according to Planning Commission report. Means out of 100 people, 69 ST people are indebted. 69 people are indebted. 69% of tribal people are indebted. Means obviously they will be suffering with poverty and indebtedness. Factors responsible for poverty and indebtedness. What is, when I am suffering with poverty, I don't have money, then I will go for loan. Indebtedness means what? Loan. When I go for loan, he will give loan. But at what interest rate? High interest. When I am unable to pay, then he will tell that, see, you asked me money, I gave you money, now you are not paying back, give my money back. Correct or not? Yes, correct, sir. Give, don't know. Then what I will do? I don't have. Then exploitation. Poverty and indebtedness. Economic factors. Why they are suffering with poverty and indebtedness? Primitive agricultural practices. They don't have modern agriculture practices. Primitive agriculture practices. Then output will be more or output will be less? When the output is less, their income generation will be more or less? Less remunerative occupations other than agriculture. If they are doing any occupation like laborers, the amount which will be given to the tribals will be less because of their innocence and ignorance. Their occupations also are less remunerative. Low skill base. They don't have the skill. We have the skill. At least communication skills we have computer skills. Some or the other job we will get. But these people are not skilled. They are just manual laborers. And when they are doing manual labor also, the income which they pay to them is also very less. Depletion of natural resources. Once upon a time, I was been living in the forest. So what are all the natural resources were been there? I used to consume and I used to survive. But now because of deforestation, the natural resources are also getting depleted. The biggest problem is land. When my land itself is taken away, when I don't have any livelihood, then obviously I will be pushed into poverty. One is primitive agriculture practices, less remunerative occupations, low skill base, depletion of natural resources, land alienation. Socio-cultural factors. Not only this, socio-cultural factors will be there. You go to a tribal people, they will not have money, but they will celebrate functions like anything. Extravagant expenditures for social activities. What in your house, your daughter gave birth to a new child, party. Immediately they will give party. Celebrations will be huge and the costly expenditure will be there. Social activity. If he is not giving any function, if he is not giving party, then his position will lower down. Everyone, see, he is not giving only, see how he is. In tribal people, for each and every event they will celebrate. Extravagant expenditure on social activities. So see, I have some money. If I buy some seeds, if I buy one buffalo, it will give me return. But the same money if I use for some social function, for giving feast to my tribal community, whether it will give returns? Extravagant expenditure for social activities. It is their cultural practice. It is their culture. They will celebrate. Whatever the money we have, they celebrate. That is the reason. They live for today. They will not live for tomorrow. But obviously tomorrow they will be pushed into poverty. Lack of education. When there is no education, obviously pushed into poverty. Poor health, malnutrition, burden of various diseases. Food which they consume also will be less because no money. So food is also not proper. Pushed into malnutrition. When pushed into malnutrition, there will be diseases. Poor infrastructure facilities like road connectivity. They are living in the forest area. There is no road connectivity. When there is no road connectivity, they will not get any jobs. Poor infrastructure facility is also one of the factors which is responsible for poverty. Exploitation by whom? Moneylenders. Exploitation by forest officials. The tribal man climbed the tree and he got honey and he's coming to his home. In between, the forest officer will be there. What for me? You are taking honey bottle. Sir, I got only one bottle, sir. Give half, no. Exploitation by forest officials and outsiders. Lacunae in government legislation. There is no proper government legislations. So these are the factors which are responsible for tribals pushed into poverty. These are the factors which are responsible for the tribals who are facing with poverty and indebtedness. Factors. Then what B.D. Sharma told? B.D. Sharma told there are 5 levels of deprivation which are faced by the tribals. Number 1, non-recognition of rights over resources and restriction of their use. What? In the forest, if there is some honey, lac, resins, small reserves, they are been not recognized as the owners of those. The forest official will come. Hey, you are taking honey, this honey belongs to the government. Government means I am, that is mine. He climbed, he took honey and he came down and he is going home. At the correct time he will come. You climbed, you take everything, but that honey belongs to whom? The honey belongs to government. You don't have rights. Non-recognition of rights over resources and restriction of their. So give it to me. You told government means we people only. Restrictions of their use. So exploitation, push it into poverty. At least this honey he can take to the town or urban area and he can sell and he can make some. Non-recognition of rights. Alienation of workers from the means of production. Up to now I was been living in the forest area. Now I am been thrown out from the forest area. Land alienation. Where the production is happening, I am been alienated from the place where the production is happening. So my income will be reduced. Income is what? Livelihood. Denial of due entitlement of labor. If any tribal person is doing some work, a manual laborer, you see general problem. Seeing the tribal, seeing his dress pattern, talking to him, knowing his innocence, ignorance, his illiteracy, the payments will not be paid to them. Narega payments also not paid. When the postmaster is paying the Narega payment, he will keep 50% and he will give 50, this much only you got. You don't know where to complain, you don't know where to ask, how much the postmaster is giving, that much only they will take. Means what? Denial of entitlement means their money or their wages. Denial of due entitlement of their. I worked, you have to pay 500 rupees per day, but you paid only 200 rupees by seeing my innocence. Whether when a tribal man or a poor man or unrested man, very weak man came, how the mainstream people will exploit? Whether they will pay full amount or whether they will try to pay less amount. Denial of due entitlement of bartering of personal liberty. The biggest problem is bartering of personal liberty. What they want to do, they cannot do. This is my land, I want to live here, but I cannot. Bartering means compromising of personal liberty. I don't want to go into the mainstream, but I am pushed into the mainstream. Why? Because my land got alienated. My personal, what is my choice? I will not do with respect to my choice. I want to become an IPS officer, but I settled with police constable. Bartering of personal liberty. Compromising with personal liberty. Why? Because I am suffering with poverty. 5th, psychological state of accepting deprivation, destitution as justified a demise of self-respect and dignity. Anta mithya, nothing is there. Now like this only, my life has been born like this. So finally, this stage, we will be reasoning. So these 5 stages are there. Number 1, non-recognition of rights over resources. Number 2, alienation of workers from the means of production. Number 4, bartering of persons. See, what is I believe this is the biggest problem. Bartering of persons. Sometimes we compromise. Yes or no? Prostitution is what? They will not do by choice. They will not do by wish. Bartering of personal liberty. They don't want to, but they want. Why? Because food. Bartering of personal liberty. They don't want to go out, but they are going out from their own lands. Why? Because the land has been alienated. I want to become an IPS officer, but my parents are making me to write police constable exam. Bartering of personal liberty. 5th, final, the state of demise, destitution, disrespect, where I born for this, I born for exploitation, I born that others should exploit. I will come to this particular psychological state. These are the 5 stages in poverty which is faced by the tribe according to Consequences: bonded labor, land alienation. I don't have money, but I took some money at exorbitant interest rate. Now I am unable to pay back. Then what the money lender is telling? Give me the land. Give me the land. Land alienation, prostitution, forced migration related socio-psychological effects. Forced migration. I don't want to migrate, but I am migrating. Why? I don't have money. Disintegration of family when I am going away. Whether I will go alone and I will be working in the urban areas for the sake of money, so that I will send some money to my family who is located in the forest area. Disintegration of family system, no social support. Who will support in urban area? No social support. Impact on physical and mental health due to hard labor and stress induced in new environment. Like yesterday I told you, the people who are working in borewells, a new environment, stressed environment, the labor will be too much hectic. These all are forced migration related socio-psychological. These are the consequences of poverty and indebtedness. Case study. I will tell you one case study. There is a system called as Palemode. Palemode type of seed loans taken by the tribes in Maharashtra. Means what they will do in Maharashtra. The system called as Palemode. Before agriculture, before going for sowing of the seeds, for buying seeds, I will go to the nearby rich people, like money lenders, under Palemode system, I want to buy the seeds. Then what they will do? They will make a paper, they will make the left thumb impression and give them the seeds. And they will make an arrangement that after the output, you have to sell this output only to me at predetermined prices. Means, if the rice, for example, if the rice price is 30 rupees, they will make an arrangement. Then only I will give you Palemode. Then only I will give you money for seeds at 5 rupees. Now I don't have money to buy the seeds. So now what I will do? Okay, fine. Then he had a very good output. He bought for 5 rupees. Now he will, the money lender will sell it for 30 rupees, 40 rupees. Who is at loss? The tribal farmer. Who is at loss? Tribal farmer. That particular system is called as Palemode. Same is there in Dadan. In Tripura, under the Dadan system, advance money, the creditor purchases the farm produce at much discounted rates, the prevailing market rates. I will give you loan. But you have to sell your output at a predetermined prices. Mainly from the tribal farmers. That system in Maharashtra is called as Palemode. The system in Tripura is called as Dadan. Government efforts. What are government efforts? The biggest problem which is pushing them into poverty is money lender. So first we have to stop whom? Money lenders. In place of money lenders, what we have to institutionalize? Banks. Money lender should not be there. Pawn broker should not be there. Pawn brokers or money lenders, they will charge high interest rates. Regulating money lenders in Schedule 5 and Schedule 6 areas. Schemes like Vanabandhu Kalyan Yojana, Vanadan Yojana. What is Vanabandhu Kalyan Yojana? Electricity, agriculture, land, everything will be provided by the government under 2 schemes. One scheme is called as Vanabandhu Kalyan Yojana, another scheme is called as Vanadan Yojana, government schemes. Bharat Livelihood Missions. What is this Bharat Livelihood Missions? A government schemes whereby under corporate social responsibility, 2% of the net profit they have to use for social activities. So the 2% of money under this particular scheme, they have to use for tribal development. That scheme name is called as Bharat Livelihood Mission. Minimum support for minor forest produce. What are minor forest produce? Honey, lac, resins. How there is a minimum support price for food grains. Similarly, there is a minimum support price for minor forest produce. Like honey, lac, resins means if no one is buying, government is ready to buy. That is called as minimum support price for minor forest produce. Major forest produce owner is government only, like timber. But minor forest produce tribals can use. Like what? Honey, lac, resins. Establishing food processing industries to add value to tribal produce. We are establishing what? Food processing industries. Providing marketing support for tribal products like handicrafts and metallurgy. Like what? Bamboo, baskets. So their metal works, for their hand works. Who is the buyer? Government is the buyer. Various resource conservation efforts like 1000 spring initiatives, like bringing water to the tribal areas. So what will happen? They can use this water for agriculture. Under which initiative? 1000 springs initiative. Aid to voluntary organization working for the welfare. So any NGO working for the development of STs, aid will be given by the government. Aid means money will be given by the government. So aid to voluntary organizations, NGOs who are working for the welfare of, these are all the schemes for tribal development. What are all the government efforts? Number one, new ad rules for money lenders. Means what is that? Means money lenders should not be established in tribal areas. Next, regulating money lenders in Schedule 5 and Schedule 6. Schemes from Vanabandhu Kalyan Yojana and Vanadan Yojana. Bharat Livelihood Mission. Minimum support price for minor forest produce. Establish food processing industry to add value to the agriculture produce. Providing statutory marketing prices for handicrafts. Various resource conservation initiatives like 1000 springs. Means 1000 water reserves will be made such that they will get water for their agriculture, so that their income will increase. Aid to voluntary organizations. Then what are the committee recommendations? Zaksa committee recommendations. First, Zaksa committee recommendation. Credit and marketing facility need to be extended to, means what? Now onwards, money lender should be removed. Banking institutions should be established. Those institutions should give credit and marketing facilities. Means credit means loan. I should not go for loan to whom? Where I have to go? Bank. When I go to bank, the loan will be less. If I don't pay also, they will not take my land. Steps must be taken by the government for skill development among the tribal youth. Pending vacancies in central government jobs and PSUs have to be filled, mainly for STs. Strict implementation of Samata judgment to prevent land alienation. These are the recommendations of Zaksa. Scheduled Areas and Scheduled Tribes Commission headed by Dilip Singh Guriye recommended for strong regulation of. So he believed that all the problems which the tribes are facing mainly with respect to poverty is because of money lenders. So there should be a strong regulation on, according to Dilip Singh Guriye. Who is this person? Scheduled Area and Scheduled Tribes Commission. One commission was being constituted by the name called as Scheduled Area and Scheduled Tribes in 1960. Write a short notes on indebtedness among tribal communities. What is indebtedness? When I am poverty, I want money, so I am going for loans. Causes, impact, how to overcome it, expert committee recommendations. Direct or not? Third problem. So two problems we discussed today.